Preston Garvey is probably the most hated character in Fallout 4, and maybe one of the most hated characters in the Fallout universe. But why is this? Why is this seemingly gateway NPC who's a companion who links to one of the main quests and probably the most picked faction in Fallout 4 hated so much? Well, in this video I look to explore that. And I look to find out why Preston Garvey, the leader, or the once leader of the Minutemen, the definitive good faction of Fallout 4, is so hated, but Nick Valentine, a companion who only stays with you really for the very start of the game, and then is only optional, is so loved. I want to begin this video by talking about Preston Garvey, and first talking about his backstory. You run across Preston Garvey at the very start of Fallout 4, and in fact, he's technically one of the very first quests. Looking for help in this new vast wasteland that you've never seen before, unless you've played a Fallout before, you find Preston at a nearby town in Concord. Concord is a small town, and the only reason it even exists in the game is literally to find Preston and his group. There is nothing here, I'm not even joking, there is no interest other than this quest. You find Preston being pinned down by raiders, and you save him. In doing so, he leads you to the town/village you came from, Sanctuary. Preston leads you there and informs you that he was once part of a great community, a great army, a great group of members who would protect and are sworn to protect the people of the Commonwealth, the Minutemen. The Minutemen really are just generic good guys of the Fallout universe. There is really no reason to hate the Minutemen, as they are literally the goody two-shoes of the Commonwealth, and they will do anything for the people really. And Preston Garvey really embodies this. He is this kind and warm figure to you. He is always nice to you and never once says anything bad about you, and he welcomes you into the group immediately. Preston talks about his past life and how he joined the Minutemen, but however, they were taken down by a faction called the Gunners. The Gunners surprise attacked the Minutemen from the inside, and Preston lost all of his friends. He goes in to talk about how this caused him to be depressed, he didn't know where he was going, and eventually he lost so many people. He even talks about how each day he lost more and more people. Furthermore, if you continue to level up your friendship with Preston, he'll go on to say that he was near suicidal. Well, if you get what that means. He didn't want to, he was going to game end himself, basically. He was that depressed, he was that upset with how his life had turned out. And can you blame him? All of his friends had died, all the people he trusted and loved had died, and he had no one left. You see, what I just explained there is quite a sad backstory, and naturally, we as human beings would feel sorry for this character. Preston is a naturally loving person who really has no fault to us, but yet there's something inside of us that just hate him.
It's not raining. I'm up here! As usual, I got word of a settlement that needs our help.
But do we at first? I think that's a good question to answer. Do we really at first hate Preston? And personally, from my views, no. I didn't hate Preston at first. In fact, I praised him quite a bit. I was never mean to Preston on my first run through. I quite enjoyed him as a companion, and he was quite decent, I suppose. Preston's also the most loving companion and caring, so there was no reason for me to hate him this early on. However, the cracks form very early in this NPC's relationship, in this companion's relationship, and in this character in Fallout 4. You see, once Preston bombards you with the Minutemen and the expedition about the Minutemen and the expedition about how sad his life is, he then asks if you'll do some tasks for him. Preston himself has no issue standing and doing absolutely nothing. Now, Preston is a companion, so you can take him with you on these missions. However, he never once insists on coming with you to help the people of the Commonwealth. In fact, probably the first Preston mission you get is to go and help settlers near a farm. You go and help these settlers, say you're with the Minutemen, and ask them for support. In return, Preston does nothing but give you bottle caps. This already leaves some sort of distaste in your mouth, as Preston is seen to be this loving, caring and warm companion, but yet he never puts himself out there to really do the dirty work himself. I mean, sure, you could argue that he's been on the run for so long, he's been so sad that he just needs a break, and I'd say that's fair enough. But even when you do the main missions further on, he really has no interest in coming with you until you do the end quest with him. The second thing that personally gets to me about Preston is how forgiving he is how quickly. Preston appoints you General of the Minutemen, leader of what was once one of the most powerful factions in the Commonwealth, like that.
That was easy.
Preston does this on the basis that you help farms out and you help him, but in reality, you could have been doing this easily for Caps. I mean, I do things for Caps all the time, and when I'm playing as a bad guy or I'm role-playing as a different faction, I'll always do bad deeds for Caps. It's the currency. People do things for money. You don't help the farms out of the love for helping them. You help them because you know there's that money reward at the end. Well, I didn't my first time. I wanted to help. But how does Preston know that you're doing it out of your good heart? This kind of makes it feel like Preston's giving all the responsibility to someone who A, knows nothing about the Minutemen, and B, knows nothing about the Wastelander life. This further makes Preston very unlikable, because he's now given you the full front of the Minutemen. He's given you control of a main faction, and you're not even 2 hours into the game. Preston also loves to talk about how sad his life has been, but he seems to have no care about how sad yours is. If you're playing as the male, and I'm going to go off that you are, because for some reason Bethesda, they're a bit biased towards men in this Fallout game, because even if you play as a woman, the end credits are still narrated by the male character, which I find very funny.
You're awful!
The preceding joke was brought to you by Men.
Men, we don't know what we did.
Or rather, the opening credits are, I meant. But anyway, your male character, the man you're playing as, has just lost his wife to a brutal murder that he's just watched, and he's lost his son, and he's somewhere out in the Commonwealth, and Preston's dumped the responsibility of protecting the entire Commonwealth on your shoulders. From a gameplay point of view as well, Preston's missions make him also unlikable. He's not like the Brotherhood, Railroad or Institute, where they'll have you take out a group of enemies with a companion or with some soldiers and retrieve something. No, Preston makes you do the exact same quest for hours, and you often have to travel far distances, and there is no easy or quick way to get there, and it feels so tedious. Even more, you'd think it would get easier when, you take back the castle, the Minutemen's home base. You'd think that, maybe he could have other people do the quest. Maybe Preston would start to work again. Hey, guess what? Another settlement needs your help, guys.
We're gonna take back the whole Commonwealth from the bad guys at this rate. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. Something else has come up. I'll mark it on your map. We can use all the support we can get, so see what you can do to help.
I got a better idea. Why don't I call someone whose job it is to fix it? You know why? Because when I need a job done, I get someone with a job to do that job!
No, he does not help you, and no, nor do any other Minutemen. Instead, I'd say the tasks get worse and worse. And Preston, even if you commit literal fucking war crimes, he'll just go, I'm angry with you, and then forgive you.
I trusted you, and then you joined up with the scum that prey on the Commonwealth.
What are you talking about?
Don't try to deny it. I know what you've done. Don't think that the Minutemen will stand by and let you bring even more misery to the Commonwealth. If that means shooting at you and your new friends, so be it. But that's in your hands. You can still turn back and try to actually make the Commonwealth a better place.
I for one find it completely laughable that on my Brotherhood run, I decimated the Institute and murdered the whole of the railroad before going over to the Children of Atman and murdering them because I can. That was my Brotherhood character, and just killing any ghouls or synths or supermutants or anyone who got in my way. And Preston at the end, he gets really angry, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to take some responsibility. And I literally told the guy to fuck off, but he still forgave me and just let me lead. This makes Preston's character kind of feel like a pussy, and overall makes him not only feel like a weak leader, but not a very strong companion or strong friend. Let's compare this with Nick Valentine. Nick Valentine is a synth you meet early on in the game, and you hear a lot about him. First of all, Nick Valentine introduces himself very quickly, so you really have nothing to go off. There's no big expedition dump, there's no big explaining of the plot, you meet him. Nick Valentine is not optional. You have to meet him in the same sense that Preston is not optional. You have to meet him if you want to join the Minutemen, and you have to meet Nick Valentine if you want to find your son Sean. To put this into short perspective, Nick is a synth. Synths are robots. Well, they're more than robots, they're like metahumans, but synths are robots, and basically Nick is one of them. Nick throughout his whole life has been completely subjected to this hate because he is this robot, and because society does not like synths, he's been hated for who he is. Also, Nick really struggles with who he is. He was basically chucked out as garbage from the Institute, so he finds it very hard to, find his place in the Commonwealth. And here's where the overall difference between Nick and Preston is presented. You see, Nick Valentine does everything in his power to help you, whereas Preston does everything in his power to get you to help people. Both characters have something severely in common, and that's that you save both of them. You save Preston from raiders in Concord, and you save Nick from an evil mafia sort of gang in a vault. You see, they both have this in common, but while Preston seems to thank you and move on, Nick Valentine is always helping you. Now, you could argue that this is because it's Nick's job and he's being hired, and I do agree. However, there is a difference between Nick and Preston. You see, once Nick Valentine helps you all the way to Kellogg's house, he then offers to continue to help you and come with you. Now, Preston does this, but nowhere near to the degree that Nick Valentine does. Nick asks if he can come with you to fight Kellogg. He says it's up to you, but he says he's always there to come and help. This instantly separates Nick and Preston as characters. Preston is quite happy for you to sit back and do all the work yourself, whereas Nick invites himself but lets you choose if he can go with you to kill Kellogg. It also helps that Nick is presented as a much older character, as Nick Valentine is sort of presented as a middle-aged man in the 50s who is a cop. Nick never really complains about his life, only when you ask him directly about it or when he stops to talk to you. And then, when it comes down to Nick's personal quest, it is lovely, because Nick confronts you and he asks you for help after all this time of travelling with him, and you can decide to help him. It's more of a personal quest, so you feel like you're doing a good thing for Nick, whereas with Preston's quests, you feel like you're doing them A, because you want the Minutemen ending, or B, because you have to do them. In conclusion, the reason why Nick Valentine is loved and Preston is hated so much is because Preston is a character that whines, bitches and complains about his past but has no care for yours. He is lazy and offers hardly any support or help, and while he does thank you, his quests are boring and long. Whereas Nick Valentine is a character who cares about you from the start. He offers support and guidance, and he tells you his opinions on things. Nick is also a companion, and his personal quest is fun, and you feel like you're doing the right thing. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please leave a like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1k subs by the end of this month. Big number for me anyway, so if you've made it to the end of this video, let's face it, you absolutely love my content. So please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you like the video and what companions you want me to do a breakdown of next in Fallout 4, and I'll see you all in the next video. Stay safe, guys.